Hello and welcome to jasonnewland.com. My name's Jason Newland and this is Let Me Bore You to Sleep. Hello. Oh. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. Look at all this mess on this. You know what? If you observed my podcast yesterday, my Let Me Bore You to Sleep podcast, you would have been aware that I was looking through some books that I purchased a while back, specifically for this podcast. Because, sometimes I like to chat about my life, what's going on, and other times, it's nice to just dip into some books, some factual kind of, stuff. Nothing too serious. And just to have a look and to while away the hours. So, I got a bunch of books. I mean, I literally I got about 10 books, 15 books. And literally, I'm not even joking here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 9 or 10 of them are children's books or for kids. National Geographic for kids. So I'm guessing what happened. What happened was this. I was on Amazon. I put in, searched for stuff. Wacky information, facts, stuff like that. So they gave me a book and I looked at that. And then maybe I purchased that book or stuck that in my cart, my shopping cart. And then it chucked a bunch of other stuff that I might be interested in. Not realising that it was all from the same kind of place. I want to show. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking here. National Geographic for kids. 5,000 awesome facts. Now, that doesn't take away the fact that they're good books. I'm not moaning about the book's quality or even the content necessarily. Around the World, National Geographics for Kids, number 2. More than 250 things to find. Facts and photos. So it's basically like a kid's book full of photos and stuff. Another one, National Geographic Kids, Animals Riddle Book. 300 fun riddles and brain teasers. I do not like any part of me being teased. What was that about? I don't know. Okay, what other ones? Okay, here we go. There's more. You think I'm messing about? I ain't messing about. I'm being serious. National Geographic for Kids. This is book number 4. Puzzle book Deadly Creatures. Fun-packed fun. No, fact-packed fun. But it's for kids. National Geographic for Kids. Another one. Infopedia 2022. 500 incredible photos, which is of no use for this. I mean, it's useful for me to look at. Wow. Whoa. God, look at those photos. But it's not any good for you, is it? Oh. Now that's a photograph. So, yeah. I quite like that book. Got lots of good photographs in it. But, okay, so what's next? Come on. Oh, big puzzle book. More than 250 puzzles. Oh, wait a minute. I wonder if... yeah, it's National Geographic Kids. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 books so far. And here's some pens. Oh dear. So I've got this one, Ripley's Believe It or Not, 2022. So this isn't for kids, so that's good. So I will dip into that at some point. What's the next book? Weird but True. Wild and Wacky Facts and Photos. 2022. Look. Oh, National Geographic Kids. Brilliant. What's the next one? Now, this is something that I was quite interested in. The 50s and 60s. Best of times. Growing up and being young in Britain. So yeah, this is kind of just random stuff from the 50s and 60s. So that's fine. This is good. This is what I want to be looking at. Next. 125 true stories of amazing animals. Inspiring tales of animals, friendships, and four-legged heroes, plus crazy animal antics. Now that looks good. Oh, National Geographic Kids. Oh, look. Believe it or not, Ripley's Believe It or Not. This is from 2014. Dare to look. It's got a little graphic thing on there. Don't know if you can see that. Oh, anyway, so that's good. That's not what more of those stuff. The top 10 of everything 1991. This is what I want. So I can talk about that stuff in this Let Me Bore You to Sleep. Because, you know, it's pointless information. Well, it's kind of pointless information, but at the same time, it's sometimes interesting. Sometimes sometimes it's really interesting. I can't help that, sorry. Dear Jason, we don't like the way you make your voice all squeaky. Can you please stop doing it? No. Okay, why? See, these are good books, man. These are proper big old books. Over 1,111. That's a bit of a weird thing. Over 1,111 answers to everything. Do you ever get the idea that maybe they run out of numbers and they just had ones? Why do animals play? Why were pyramids so popular in the ancient world? Why are American footballs called pigskins? I'm going to guess that they were made out of pigskins originally. Why do I have thumbs? Why do I have anything? I mean, it's what I was born with. I mean, why are you asking me that for? Why do astronomers say the universe began with a bang? Because they all copy each other, that's why. I read it in a book somewhere. Why do I need to eat? See, this looks like quite a good book. Oh, National Geographic Kids. Brilliant. So there can't be any more. It can't be any more. Because look, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 books. 9. Okay, 9 books. National Geographic for kids. 9. Nope, there's another one. National Geographic Kids. Little Kids' First Big Book of Why. First Big Book of Why. Why does soapy water make bubbles? Why do I have to eat vegetables? Why do balloons float? Why do eyeglasses work? Why are some animals so big and others so small? Why do donuts have holes? Why does my skin wrinkle in the tub? Why do seeds grow up? That looks like I think I'm going to be reading that on my own. I think it's some information now I could learn. Why does Grandma have winkles? Because she's old. Skin grows and stretches as skin grows and stretches as you grow from baby size to adult. When you've been an adult for a while, skin stops growing and stretching. It gets a little tired and a little less elastic. The lines you make when you smile today are where your wrinkles will be when you are old. A lifetime of laughter helps your skin wrinkle very nicely. Shut up. So yeah, the 10 books from the National Geographic Kids. You know what? I bet you they might have been like, oh, perhaps we won't make any more books. Well, book sector's going now, and maybe we'll just have to just stick to, ebooks or Kindle or stuff like that, and me. And then they got this order for all these books, they thought maybe there is an audience out there for these National Geographic kids. Maybe kids aren't going to just watch stuff on the internet. We should produce more. Not realising it was just one person, me, ordering all this stuff. What was going through my head? I do have other stuff. I do have other books. Ooh, yeah, that. This is one of my favourite books, Knots. An illustrated practical guide to the essential knot types and their uses. So, I've read out of this in the past. F in exams, the best test paper blunders. So, there's a few little books that I've got. It says a car company, here's one of the exams, questions. A car company is having a sale. A car that was £25,000 before the sale now has 50% off. What is the new price? And someone's written, still too expensive. This is a visual joke, but it says expand 2 in brackets x plus y. And they've just basically written it down 4 times, but made it bigger each time they've written it down, which is, I don't know if you can see that. It's quite funny. Those that are watching on video on YouTube can see these little visual things. If you're listening on a podcast, don't worry, you've not really missed anything. Simplify the following equation. 5. I don't know. I don't understand that. Okay. Name the smaller rivers which run into the Nile. The juveniles. Oh dear. Name 6 animals which live specifically in the Arctic. 2 polar bears. 4 seals. Originally he said 3 and then he put 4. 3. I don't know. The race of people known as Malays come from which country? Malaria. What was the main industry in Persia? Cats. This apparently is the best test paper blunders. I'm not sure if it's, I don't know. Explain the meaning of the word magma. Japanese cartoons. What is meant by a pull factor? This is geography. What is meant by a pull factor? A big red sports car. Name the area of calm at the centre of a storm. The pie in the sky. Again, this is geography. I'll be honest with you. I don't like to be honest, but I will be honest with you. not sure how much I absorbed from geography at school. I mean, there's an overlap, isn't there? Geography, science, history. There's a kind of. I'm banging them. My microphones are moving around. Sorry if it's distortion. I mean, so if I remember correctly, and I probably don't, but if I remember, there was. I think this camera's a bit wonky, but hey, it doesn't matter. Who's gonna know? Who's gonna notice? Now I've mentioned it, you'll notice, but you might not have noticed it. You might have done. Does it matter? It might do. It might do if you like things to be done correctly. But then you're in the wrong place because I don't do things correctly. Not all the time. I do my version of things. Whatever those things might be. I do my version. Mean. Geography. I have this memory of geography, and then part of geography was focusing on, and then history. So history, and then science. And I've already said this, there's the overlap. But in a sense of, let's say, fossils or gold or oil or stuff like that. So you've got the science of that. So we'd learn the science. And then you've got the geography of that, like where the stuff is. But then there's the history, which would potentially involve, the process of when oil was first discovered and minerals and all that stuff. But then the political aspect of things, which would be included in history. I suppose you could say that's sociology as well, but we never studied sociology at school. I never studied anything at school, but, I didn't know what sociology was. It's an ology. It's an ology. Well done. I have vague recollections of learning about flowers and pollination and things growing and history. I think we studied a bit about romance. Because, in my country, we were... Oh, the chairs. This chair's weird. Every now and then, I bet you now that I mention it, it's going to sink down. It keeps lowering itself. Now, I'm thinking that someone's messing with me. But there's no one else here. There's only moi. No one else here at all. So I don't know how it's happening. But the chair keeps lowering itself. And this is it's supposed to be a decent chair. Like a gamer's chair. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be sitting at the desk for hours on end, I might as well try and make myself as comfortable as possible. Well, this isn't a comfortable... Well, it's okay. It's quite comfortable, actually, if I sit back. Oh, it's quite comfortable. I quite like that. I might go to sleep. Just talk amongst yourselves. This is nice. Because, in this country, in my country, the one that I own, we were invaded a lot. Like, a lot. A lot. I mean, it happened quite regularly. And, I think the Romans were here for something like 300 years or 400 years. They didn't just pop in for a cup of tea and pop out. They were here for a while, like generations upon generations. There were people born, had kids, who had kids, who had kids, who had kids, who had kids. and they never knew anything other than Romans in this country. I mean, that's just mind-boggling, really, isn't it? If you're ready for your mind to be boggled, if you're not, then perhaps it isn't. I mean, some people don't, I guess we don't get boggled minds. I have a constant boggled mind. My all the time, I think. So I remember part of the learning about romance. Then there was the Vikings. Then there was the Anglo-Saxons. And we were just continually bombarded. We just. It's amazing, really, that we ever managed to really accomplish anything in this country, considering how many times we were attacked and invaded. It's phenomenal, really, that we ever got to the point of being. I said we're not self-contained. I don't think there's many countries that are self-sufficient, which is a shame, because everywhere needs to be self-sufficient. For an emergency situation, if you know what I mean, we all need to be self-sufficient. Not that I am, or I don't know how many people are. I sometimes wonder about that. I mean, we've got there is enough fields to grow enough food for everyone in this country. There is this. Anyone that gets on a plane and comes to this country, the one thing that you're going to notice is there's fields everywhere, and there's little bits where you can see, like from the air. I mean, I don't know how many feet, up, but because I didn't have my, I don't know, but you can see as you're coming into the country. Coming towards England, it's mainly country. It's mainly fields. I don't know what percentage it is, but it's got to be like 70% fields, 80% fields, and little areas where there's people living. And you've got a few bigger areas where there's towns, but even they're not that big, compared to the countryside surrounding them. And then you've got London. London's the biggest, one of the biggest places, as far as built up. I mean, there really is. There's parks. You can see the big parks. They don't look very big from the air, but it's very wow. The amount of buildings is ridiculous, compared to everywhere else. I mean, if you travel all across England, you see there's just fields. Really, it is just fields. And with little areas of humans. And if there is 77 million people in the country, I don't know if that's England or if that includes Scotland and Wales. I imagine that's the UK. It includes the whole of the island. 77 million. If it's true, I don't know. Who counts? I can't count that high, can you? I'd stop after about 32. Because I'd have to go and have a cup of coffee or something like that. Have a little break. Have a kebab. I don't know. Because then 77 million, there's arguments, but about how many people are in London. But then what constitutes London? Because parts of Essex are also, for me, they're parts of London, like Ilford and Romford. That's London, but it's also Essex. But it's definitely in London. It's minutes away from East London, Romford. Ilford and Romford, they're literally just minutes away. The Romford Road is in Stratford. yeah, which is East London. Now you keep going up the other way as it goes towards Mile End, which is the Bow Bells. Bow Bells, which it's basically it's a church. I don't even know if it's operational, but it's a church, and there's the Bow flyover, and there's this church, and the idea is if you're born within hearing distance of the Bow Bells, the bells from that church, then that means you're a proper Cockney. Now, I wasn't. I was born in North London. But I still didn't live close enough to hear the bells from Bow Church, which is near Mile End. It's not even near Mile End tube station. It's quite a distance, actually. It's quite a walking distance, I think. In my memory. Now, I've walked from Stratford to Mile End a few times over the years. It is a bus ride, it is really, but I have done the walk, and it's not a bad little walk actually. It's basically two parts of the journey. One is to the Bow flyover, and the other one is from the Bow flyover to Mile End. I might do the journey one day. I might go up there just to have a little wander around. Because I used to live in Stratford, which is some people would remember. Well, I think of Stratford as kind of the place where the Olympic Games was held in 2012, which is true, that did happen, but it's been there for a long time. Like Stratford is a very old part of London. Well, I guess apart from the new parts, every part of London's old except for the new parts. That's a weird sentence, isn't it? But Stratford is where I lived for 12 years, pretty much. And so it was home to me for a long time. I moved around a bit around the area, like East London. But, Stratford was kind of my home for most of my time there. And the train station was a dump. It was underground. It was underground train station. But it was just really grotty. It was like a dungeon. You go down, there's steps, and it was horrible. I didn't mind it. I didn't care. I mean, most of the tube stations were a bit grotty. Outside of Oxford Street and, the big popular tube stations, a lot of the other tube stations weren't up to much. Because they were old, they'd been around for a long time, like Whitechapel or Mile End and they were just old, been around for like 100 years or whatever. So I didn't really much care, if I was honest, how grubby they were. But I don't know, something changed. I think it was really with the Docklands. The Docklands changed East London, and then Stratford kind of followed along. So it was weird because you had Liverpool Street. So you got the West End for shops, and it's a very Soho, all the theatres, and kind of got the West End, Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus, Trafalgar Square, Oxford Circus, Covent Garden. Got the touristy places and museums and stuff. And you got Liverpool Street. Now I didn't know, but literally there is a place where all the newspapers, called Fleet Street, all the newspaper places lived. All the major newspapers printed their papers, they wrote the papers as far as I know. Everything was in this one street. And I never knew where it was. Because I thought, wow, this has got to be like some huge street. I knew it was in London, I just didn't know where. Well, it turns out it's just round the corner from Liverpool Street. Just literally round the corner. And I don't think everything works from there anymore. It's spread out now. But it used to be a real busy area, apparently. And so, Liverpool Street was the main area for the city. That was the city. You know, the square mile or whatever it was called, they used to call it. And then during the 90s, the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, whatever, they started building on Docklands. And there was a docks. That was a whole area where they used to have docks. Ships would come in. It was a busy, busy area. It's one of the busiest docks in the country. And for some reason, they stopped using them. I guess they used the Thames River and whatever rivers that connected, and it was barges and all kinds of I don't know why it's funny. But, yeah. So that was going on, and I worked with a lot of people that were quite older than me when I lived in Stratford, and I was like 20, and a lot of them were in their, I'd say probably late 40s, 50s, early 50s, 40s, 50s, and they used to work on the docks like 10 years before that. You know, that and it used to be a really good job, really well paid, and there's always lots of perks. And they said it was a great job, you know, and it was they missed it. They some of them talked about it like it was almost a magical time to them, because it was, well, perhaps it was. They really enjoyed that time. And I imagine if there was thousands of people all working together, the camaraderie, the friendships that people made, and being outside, and I don't know. I imagine it was quite a good life, maybe, for some. So anyway, I don't know the history behind why the docks closed down or anything like that, but they started building the Docklands. They started building the area, and they put in the Docklands Railway from Stratford to the Docklands and back. It was basically it's not unmanned, but there's no driver on there. It's just, there's always someone on there, like a worker, railway worker, that just checks and whatever, presses the button, go, or whatever, I imagine. But there's no driver. And they built it, and it was from Stratford to the Docklands. And then they added little stations along the way, and, you know, it's kind of just an automatic railway, kind of. No driver. I'm stressing the no driver, but there is someone that stands there. I never really work it out, but they do check they used to check the tickets. So I guess that's why they're there, to make sure people pay. So I didn't use the Docklands Light Railway, DLR, yeah, blimey. I didn't use it until 1996, I think was the first time. And I used it because I had a job in the Docklands. So that was the first time I used it. And the Docklands was still being built. I mean, they had built Canary Wharf. That was built because that's the building I worked in. And I remember seeing as it was being built, because they kept going on about how much it cost, and it was over budget by about a million, billion, dillion, zillion dollars. And that was I don't know when they started, probably late 80s. They probably started building that thing, and the Docklands was being built as we, just through that period. So the Docklands kind of a lot of the financial aspect, a lot of places from Fleet Street moved to the Docklands. Maybe not the printing side of things, but the actual writers, the editors, all that, the publishers. I know for a fact the Mirror Group did, because I actually worked on that in that building. It was at Canary Wharf. So the Mirror Group, so they had all the editors and their writers, and or I say all of them, but a lot of them working there. And I guess they just had the stuff printed out somewhere else. So Fleet Street kind of moved. A lot of Fleet Street seemed to move to Canary, or to the Docklands, and then other financial businesses, banks and stuff, moved to the Docklands. So they kind of moved away from Liverpool Street, or from the bank, the centre of the financial world in this country. Liverpool Street's still there, and that's still thriving, I'm pretty sure. But the Docklands kind of really opened it up, and people moved. Now, something weird happened as well, because that happened there, and then so that was like a derelict, crappy place. Well, it's just an old docks. It was a big area, but it was not being used for anything. And then they built it, and now it's like something else. It's just a big, big old place. Lots of huge buildings. So there's two other places so I never went to the Docklands, but there were two other places that I went to in Stratford. One was in Stratford, one was in Shoreditch. Now, the place I went to in Stratford is I used to walk from work to the train station. I took a shortcut, and there was this bridge. So I'd go down the steps of the bridge, the side of the bridge, and there was nothing underneath the bridge. I don't even know. I guess it was just just a bridge for cars. But I used to go down and then walk through, which was basically a train graveyard. Loads of empty old trains. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. This was a huge area. Massive, massive area. And I used to walk through there as a shortcut, and it used to lead me directly to Stratford station, train station. Now, I didn't know, I think it was, once you got to the late 90s, they'd have security there. But back then, in the early 90s, nothing. You just walk around, do what you want. I didn't know that they were preparing to transform that whole area into the Olympic Stadium and all the other things connected to Olympics, as well as building a huge shopping mall and all this other stuff that they did in Stratford. So Stratford became really well-to-do. Gradually, in the late 90s, there was like Stratford Village. All these new houses were built. They had a supermarket. That was probably by about 94, 95. A big supermarket was not far from the train station. Like a big supermarket, proper size. I say that because there was nothing there. There was nothing in Stratford, really. And then they made like middle 90s, maybe 96, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later. The bus station outside of Stratford, which was just outside of the train station, they redone it, put all these special big umbrella things up and made it look really nice. They really redeveloped the whole of that area. Before, it was just grungy. And then they started redeveloping the train station in the 90s. As the years went by, more and more railway tracks would come into Stratford, like overground, underground. That's the Wombles song, isn't it? Wombles are we, the da 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 Wimbledon, um, and it was just growing. Everything. It's like, where did all this space come from? And it was just getting bigger and bigger, and there was more lines, more train stations, overground stuff. It just grew and grew. So Stratford got bigger and bigger, and then they started building what I thought was a link to the Channel Tunnel, although it never seemed to arrive. But they had this whole area that they were building. A cafe opened up specifically just to feed people that were working there. And then, at this point, there was no Olympic Games. You know, it wasn't in stone. It was. They didn't find out until, I don't know, 4 years before, maybe, or maybe a little bit, maybe earlier than that. But it wasn't a huge, you know. It wasn't until 2008, maybe 2007, that they knew that they had the Olympics in Stratford, because cities all around the country were bidding to have that. Yet they were already doing all this regeneration in Stratford long before the Olympic Games was even mentioned. I didn't even know it was a possibility that it was going to be there. Had I known that, I might have stuck around. I might have sort of stayed there and tried to cash in on it somehow. I don't know. Maybe become a long distance runner. Or I could have got a gold medal, man. No. So I just remember that. It's really weird because it was really rubbish area, and suddenly it became nice. And a lot of this happened after I left London. After I left, and it was like, wow. I went back and I could see it being built. It was like Fraggle Rock. It was gradually getting bigger and bigger, and I was like, wow, what the heck. This is long before they even mentioned the Olympics, so they knew. They must have knew they had it in the bag. They must have done. Someone knew something somewhere. Someone always knows something. So yeah, it was weird. And then Shoreditch is another area that was absolutely horrible. I mean, it was right round the corner from Liverpool Street. Literally round the corner. You come out of Liverpool Street station, you turn left, you keep walking, leads you to Shoreditch. You keep walking all the way around, and then you get to the traffic lights, and then that's Shoreditch High Street as you cross the traffic lights, and you walk down there. And in those days, there was just rows of roads that were like alleyways, dark, dingy alleyways, and that whole area used to be industrial. Used to be mills and things like that, and it used to be very, very busy, very, very busy. And then, you know, for whatever reason, things stopped and they stopped being busy, and there were empty buildings everywhere. It was completely just. It was kind of dangerous at night. I didn't really feel it, but a couple of times I noticed that. Oh, because I know I discovered Shoreditch. I discovered Shoreditch because there was a comedy club there, and I started going to that comedy club in January 1991. And when I got there, I was surprised because it was close to two very busy train stations. Liverpool Street Station, you could just turn left out of Liverpool Street Station, the main entrance, walk all the way around to the left, and just keep walking down to Shoreditch High Street, and then turn left before you got to Brown's, the strip club, you know, which is on the. I said, you know, like you should know, but you know, it's very easy to get to. if you kind of, I guess, if you know it. But then another way to get to it is from, and it's gone out of my head. Why has it gone out of my head? Why has it gone out of my head? It's not Bank. It's it's a tube station that I've used hundreds and hundreds of times, and it's gone out of my head. But it's just round the corner anyway. Not Bank. It's not Bank, because that's round the corner from something street. Not Black Street, not Green Street, Blue Street. Green Street? Anyway, that literally, if you walk, because the comedy club was kind of nearer one end, nearer Shoreditch High Street, but if you walk down all the way down that road, come out the other end, there's a few different parts of the road, come out the very end. I can't remember the name of it. Oh, it's something street. Come out the other end of it. I'm going to try and imagine. I can imagine the journey. I can imagine walking there. Imagine, because it was very busy roundabout. Very busy road system. And because just up the road from there was the Eye Hospital. There's also City University, was just up the road. And not Good Street. I'll think about it. As soon as I've finished the recording, I'll think about it. It'll come into my head, probably. Podge, Bridge, Bodge, Nodge, Wodge, Lodge, Codge. Green, Ping, Wing, Wong. I don't know. What's... that's going to bug me now. Good Street? Not Good Street. But anyway, there's also a... Oh, there was a cab office. There was a chip shop on the corner as you cross the road. Walking round, there was a cab office. There was also a place called the Aquarium, which was a nightclub that used to have... Well, people used to swim. I can't think of anything worse than being around drunk people in a swimming pool. That was like, I couldn't go. I was like, well, this looks like it'd be fun on for various kind of obvious reasons. It could be a lot of fun, but from another angle, I don't swim, and I don't know. So I never went. I mean, perhaps I should have just gone to watch. And it was round the corner, just literally round the corner from where I was. So I would have been in it. I'm trying to think of the name of the. I can even remember the entrance, because there was a couple of entrances. There's a few actually, because there's a big old roundabout. I'd go down, walk down, and then there'd be a couple of shops inside. And yeah, it was quite a big old entrance to get in there. There was a lot of people, because it was still part of the city, the other side of the city in a sense. So you were no longer really in Shoreditch. Shoreditch was kind of further up. There was nothing happening in Shoreditch at that time. But this other part was more like outskirts of the city, because it wasn't far from... It's not Bank. Wasn't far from Liverpool Street Station, literally round the corner. What is it called? I can't remember, man. I can't remember. Wow. I mean, it's not important, but considering I went there so often, like sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, in the 90s, sometimes more often than that. But then I did favour Liverpool Street. It was a further walk, It was a longer walk, but Liverpool Street, I could just stay on one train, from Stratford Central Line to Liverpool Street, and it was like 5 stops or something. If I wanted to go to whatever station it was, I'd have to go to Bank. So that'd be I'd need to go off at Bank and then get onto the Northern Line, which then took me to whatever train station underground it was, and it's gone right out of my head. It's weird. Why has it gone out of my head? Something so irrelevant, really. It's not even relevant enough to hide from me. Why is it hiding from me? I don't get it. Not Good Street. Bank. Anyway, so that is a place I used to go. But Shoreditch, while I was in London, Shoreditch started to grow. A few pubs opened up. A few pubs that had been there for a long time started to become more popular. A few more of the buildings were taken over. So I'd say between 91 and 97, things started to grow. Because, in 91, there might have been things during the day going on, but at night there was nothing. No one was there. It was dark alleyways and no lighting. It was really quite grim, to be honest. And then things changed over time. A lot more clubs opened, especially late 90s, early 2000s. And as time went by, the whole area became very popular. It's been trendy for quite a long time now. And I'm sure they had a shop that sold breakfast cereal, like a cafe, but with breakfast cereal. And I'd love to be able to judge that, but I quite like the idea of it, if I'm honest. I do like a nice bowl of breakfast. I do. A nice bowl of cornflakes. Sometimes that would be more useful to me as a little snack. Better than having a chocolate bar or an ice cream or a bag of crisps. Just like a nice bowl of Rice Krispies or Weetabix or something like that. That'd be quite nice. Maybe that's weird. You're weird. Call me weird. Still trying to think of that tube station. I can't. Anyway, that's that. That is that. Street. Good Street, Big Street, Bang Street, Ding Street, Dong Street, Bing Bang Bong Street. I can't remember. Yeah. It was on the Northern Line anyway. I think it was literally just after. I think it was like one stop from Bank. That wasn't Green Street. Oh well, doesn't matter. So that's 3 parts of London that have grown. 2 of which I've seen: Stratford, because of Olympic Games, and then, although they were working on that 10 years, more than 10 years before. About 15 years before they were working on Stratford. So someone knew something somewhere. Unless it was just a gamble that paid off. Paid off someone. Someone got paid off. No, I don't know. So Shoreditch grew from nothing to this big popular, like really popular place with lots of people at night when there used to be nobody. I mean, it was very. If you went there, you went. People who came to the comedy club came to Shoreditch to the comedy club because there was nothing else there other than a strip club called Brown's, literally just across the road or up the end and across the road. There wasn't much else going there on, in the evening. I mean, there's pubs, I suppose, dotted around, but as far as pedestrian traffic, there wasn't a lot of people around. So I can't think of that tube station that's going to bug me now. I'm not even going to search it. I'm going to let it come. Sometimes good things just let things come naturally in their own time. That's what I'm going to do with that. Or I might just search online. No, I'm not going to. So I want to go, thank you for listening. Thank you very much. She'll do one more out of this. F in exams. Excuse me. Oh, blimey. Okay, business studies. Okay. Explain the word wholesaler. Explain the word wholesaler. This is under business studies. Someone who sells you whole items. Example, a whole cake. Oh dear. That's it from me. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.